Well, hello out there. Out here playing on the Lamborghini. Did a bunch of welding. Got my welder, my original one, operational again. Didn't get my free demo one yet, so who knows if that's ever going to show up. But that's a story for a different day. But anyway, everything is all welded, minus the front little pieces there on the bottom, the front of the door jambs. That's going to be a separate video. Other than that, from the firewall all the way back to here, minus the tail panel, has been welded and solid. I actually need to remove the tail panel because there are some spots there behind the tail panel that needs to be welded. That's what attaches the quarter there to the trunk drop off. So I need to weld that. And then install the tail panel for the very last time. There's a few things I need to doctor up. And something else, I welded the spoiler hole shut in this trunk deck. So don't you worry, this one is probably not going to get a spoiler. But anyway, get back to here. I want to get that tail panel pulled off, show you some behind the scenes things you might want to know about, or something maybe to keep in mind if someone's building your car for you. Make sure they weld these areas here because I think sometimes they get skipped. I guess before we rip the tail panel off, let me get you up to speed because I didn't really do a video on this. You saw all that getting welded in. The area that still needs to be repaired is down here. I need to weld that section in, so that'll be coming up. I'll probably do a video on that. But door jamb area. All these spot welds, here around the striker plate, couple here, then down the whole pillar post right there. A little dog leg on the quarter panel, all laid in. Now these welds, you do it right or do it well, they're actually countersunk. So basically, you just need to clean it up and ready for paint. You don't got to do any grinding on that. If you haven't seen that video, you need to check that out, how to do that. Of course, you can't see down in there, but I've got a little angle brace welded in there and at that end. Welded everything here on the inside finally in, all in and solid. Seat back welded in. All the 11 million plug welds through here. I'm gonna do something different. I'm not gonna put body filler or lead. I'm gonna make a strip to put in here, so that'll be a video coming up here pretty soon. Wheel well arch. Now you'll see these welds are spread out significantly further than anything else. Normally about an inch and a quarter. These are nearly about 4 inches apart. I think it works out okay. Being an arch, it has a lot of strength. I don't feel I need to put that many welds in it. Not to mention, it's not always fun welding upside down. Down here on the bottom of the quarter panel, got that all burned in. And this is finally burned in permanently. So that's things I've been working on. And then when we get back here to the back, inside the trunk, we have our trunk gutter. That's welded. Had a little trouble with the welder, so I had to do a little grinding, unfortunately. But that's how it worked out. Need to take the tail panel off. Need to cut here. Hello, cut me. So that's why I made my note. Need to knock that thing out. Now the area in question is the piece here. See, the tail panel is still loose. This quarter panel actually has welds behind this tail panel that attaches it to the trunk drop off. You'll see when I get it off exactly what I'm talking about, but so many times I think that step gets skipped because, well, you have to remove the tail panel to do that. And if your car doesn't need the tail panel removed, I don't know how you would get in there unless you wanted to cut it apart and weld that even back together. So again, you'll see a lot of times that might get skipped. But for me, I have the luxury of being able to remove this back off and weld that. So that's what we're going to do. So once that's welded into place, then we can do our final fitment and install. Now this tail panel, let me tell you a little story about this thing. I should have returned it. I got gypped on this one. The stamping is off-centered. I think obviously the 2-stage, 3-stage stamp. They punch out one part, put it in the next press, move it over. But it had a shift situation. It got stamped twice or something because this line should be over here. And this side, well, even the radius is missing where it curves up to the quarter panel. And this is wrong. And I had to keep working here with a hammer because this bulge was almost an inch over this way. And this one was almost an inch over this way too far. So I've been working that out and working this in and shifting this thing over. That's why I had the problem with the lock cylinder hole. I've had to work to hammer and dolly this out because it actually got stamped another indent right here. So this is actually dished in like the lock cylinder. So I guess the story there is inspect your parts better when you receive them. Don't just kind of look at the edges, check the whole thing. I would have never guessed that in 11 billion years they could do that, but it did. And I already fit it so well that I'm going to spend time fixing it, but it would have been better to swap this one out. Again, my mistake kind of my part for not inspecting that, so that's why I'm sharing that with you. And once I get this off, I'll show you some notes here on the taillight opening. I got to do some doctoring. That's why we test fit them. And I feel there's a subliminal message happening somewhere in this video that maybe you should take into account. But I don't know if we'll talk about that later if you haven't figured it out yet. So what we're going to do when the tail panel comes off, I'm going to modify this, cut it, tweak it so it closes up this gap. These gaps aren't that great normally from the word go anyway. They don't get the radius quite right. Technically, This one looks great because it's actually closer than they normally are, only because it got stamped this way a little bit further. So again, if this was stamped like it was, there would actually be a gap in here that would probably need modification anyway. And you'll see a nice silver line. Make sure I get this to show up in the camera. That silver line is my cut-to line. This is way, I can't even, maybe a 1/4 inch wide width, not wide enough. It should be wider, kind of like my gap here. This is where it needs to be, so I need to trim this back. So got some mods to do, but next thing though is remove the tail panel so we can get started. Okay. Oh, that's tight. That'll be fun to get back in there. Okay. Now, inside here, you'll find a note. It says, remove. That flange hangs down just too far. The tail light won't fit inside our opening. That's why I make these notes. Now it's time to cut that out. So that's one of the things we're going to do while this is off. All right, so let's talk about some of the behind the scenes things like we discussed. There's going to be some welds I need to put in through here. I would go ahead and put some screws in it. We're going to do one more test fitting. We're going to take this thing back off at least one more time. We're going to notch this out. That's my little note. That's how the replacement ones are stamped, but the factory is more straight across than an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Look, all kinds of room. No reason not to unless you forget to, kind of thing. The other thing we got to do, this tail panel needs welded to the frame rails. There's 3 legs here. And I've also got fuel tank straps where they come up here behind this plate. Same thing, it'll be 3 legs, so a couple welds, couple welds, couple welds. So I'll weld that together. That's pulled up good. Same as that side. And I'll do the frame rail on that side. I've even got here where it attaches to the trunk floor. Do you see any spot welds in here yet? Nope, only a couple screws in each end. And right here in the middle. It pulled up so nice, they didn't put a whole lot of screws into it yet, but that does need to be welded. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna notch this out, weld all these little areas here we just discussed. Not going to weld this yet. We're gonna put some screws in it and test this one last time. I'd like for this to have a nice clean gap between the tail panel and the quarter panel. You'll see so many cars so often that this detail is overlooked and just either welded shut or filled full of plastic body filler. It should resemble like I have here on the Trans Am. Just a nice clean line between the 2 panels. That's what we're gonna go for here. I guess with that being said, there's something that I want to kind of discuss or lay out there for you all that watching what I do versus all the other channels out there doing work on their own cars. I always say the right way, the wrong way, and the VVG way, partially joking, but some truth to it. I like to think that, I guess here's how I like to see in my mind or envision doing the metal work on a car. When this car is complete and when it's done, let's just say for some crazy reason, you wanted to send it to the media blaster or have it acid dipped, and then you pull it out of that bath and you look at the sheet metal, I want it to look like as if it's never been touched. No obvious signs. Now, I know I can't get 100%, but I'm going to do the best that I can in all the areas that I could get it right. Now, probably quite a few of you have watched those car shows where they send the car off to media blast or stripping or the dipper, and they get it back. It looks like it's been through a war. There's holes all through it, little scab patches welded all over the place, weird seams in weird places. I know I've done some of that in the past, but again, if I do a seam, I try to butt weld it, line it up really clean, and get it cleaned up and hammered out. Where again, if you were to dip it or have it media blasted, like even the pumpkin, I welded in the quarter panels right here below, just above the line. By the time I was done with it, I had that car media blasted. You couldn't tell where I sectioned them in. That's just my style or how I like to do it, and that's what I'm going to show you. Now, a lot of people feel that you can lap weld panels, might be an acceptable repair, not knocking that style. What I'm trying to say is there's different styles and different ways. That's why the whole right way, wrong way, and the VVG way. Lots of opinions out there. So I'm just sharing with you what's going on in here and why I go through all this trouble putting it together, taking it apart, putting it together, taking it apart, because I'm just trying to get the best fitment possible out of these panels. That way, I guess I just feel good about what I'm doing, and it adds to the challenge, and I like doing it that way. Now, is this for everybody? No. I'm just telling you how I like to do things here and why I do it the way that I do. So anyway, now proceed with getting this all welded, and I'll go ahead and notch this out, notch out the back of my tail panel, test fit my tail light, and then we'll proceed to the next step of putting it back in for the last time and then take it back out so I can weld these ends up and make sure they're exactly where I want them to be. So let's get started by doing the one that I forgot to do twice already. So I'm going to do this now so it doesn't get overlooked again. That's much better. All right, I have the tail panel flipped upside down. This is what I'm talking about on that tail light. Go to test fit the tail light into that panel. I got a little mark here that says remove, because this edge here will not slide down into place. So if I lay this tail panel in the back of the pocket like it's supposed to, that bolt hole is going to line up, that bolt hole is going to line up. The bolt hole lines up, but we're not sitting in the tail light housing. We're actually hitting right there. You can see it. So be a quick little mod. Just buzz that off now. A whole lot easier while it's outside of the car. So we'll go ahead and clean that up then. The way this tail light goes all the way in. Right now, we're actually not going all the way into the tail light opening because of that. Take just a few seconds to buzz that. All right, check this out here. Trim that back. I'm going to touch up the paint. That's not the end of the world. But the good news is now when I drop this in, it actually goes in. It clears that area there. And then, by the time I flip this thing up, you'll see the taillight actually protrudes through the opening of the tail panel now like it's supposed to. So, that gets the check marks. Move on to the next part, right? Here's what we've done. We got the welding all done across the back. Looks really nice. That's squared away, finished. Super big hole I drilled. That's super top secret. That's a video for a different day. And then I've got the frame rails now attached. Trunk supports now attached both sides. Now I've also went ahead, you saw it knocked up cleaned up the taillight surround, but I went ahead and notched that out then too and brought it into a radius so it'll fit better. So now I'm ready to do the final installation. Now again, I didn't weld this yet because I want to make sure nothing's changed. I did weld stuff, things did move around. This is going to be our last fitment. So put this in the car, make sure it all lines up. Left the trunk deck on, did not move that because that's my point of reference. And once this is on, shut the trunk, looks good. As long as this gap's good, take it back off for the last time and weld those in. And then we can finally put the tail panel in, the last piece of the puzzle. Ready?
Yep.
I've got my camera person, Ed, working with me today. She said she's on summer break and wanted to hang out with her dad. I actually probably got to pay her to hang out with me because this isn't as much fun. Now, I'll take that side in first. Hopefully, get this side to follow suit. Now the thing of it is, you got to get it on top of the gutter, but underneath the quarter panel and tucked into place. So that's pretty close. This side kind of fell into place, and so far she's just kind of going where it's supposed to go. Hey, I'll take the victory, right? Wow. Okay. And I'll put a couple of screws in it. Look, it's staying. Verify my fitment. Again, I'm gonna put the screws back in where I had them because that's where everything was working. Put this guy in here. All right. Yep. Oh. Now this looks a little wide, but it's popped open because we're gonna put the screws in it. But let's just for grins and giggles. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put the screws in here. That's gonna be okay. I really figured it was gonna fight me a little more. too far. Okay. Let's check this side. The line looks good. Got a little thing I gotta buzz off. You see the silver marker anywhere? Nope. Okay. That's how I'm gonna make marks on it. We'll have to find that here in a minute. And this one. I got a little trimming here, it looks like, to do. Or, ta-da, the magic wand, as the on calls it. Oh. You know what I need? I need this guy right here. Trunk aligner, I mean. Where'd I throw the hammers at? There it goes. Now what? Yep, that's gonna line up. I got a little piece. I'll show you when I get it off. Gotta find my silver marker. I gotta make a mark there. I gotta do a little trimming on the inside. But I think overall that ought to work. Now this move. Now I used the Trunco liner to get this a whole lot closer. What's actually going on is I had these corners folded way back initially. The problem is that lip right there above my thumb is hitting before it goes all the way in. So I just need to trim that back a little bit. And that should get us where this then is on the same plane. It's close, but it sticks up just a little bit. So that's this side. This is working out okay. Trunk gap didn't change. That still looks pretty nice. Quarter panel lines up here. Tail panel's good. That's good. Put the screw here in the corner. I think we're okay. My screw holes are lining up down inside here, so I'm not gonna put that one's off a little bit, but I think I put the screws in it and I'll pull it into place. But that looks pretty good. So I think all in all, I think we're ready to actually take that back off and weld the ends and actually modify that. Then weld the ends. I was able to sneak the death wheel in here and trim up that edge. And now my corner is on the same plane laying in there. I know it seems like a lot of work, but this is how I like to do this. That way everything, I know how it's gonna look when it's done. I guess the other option, of course, should be just load it full of body filler. That works for some people, not so much for me. Like I discussed earlier in the video, make that metal fit the best that you can. With that being said, I'm going to take this off, weld those ends, then it'd be simple as welding this in. But I got some clues here, some circles for the next video, or next one here really soon. We're going to do a little modification here to the car. We kind of talked about it here briefly. Maybe we have it, maybe we haven't. I don't remember, don't recall. But anyway, that's going to be coming up next. So I'm not going to finish welding in the tail panel, but you see all the important parts and why we leave the trunk deck on, why we test fit it, why we take it back off, why we put it back on. I know it seems like a lot of work, but really, in the end, it makes for really super clean results. And that's how I've been able to get it to work. So I wanted to share those things with you. But now, it's summer break. Ed wants to go roller skating, so we're not going to finish the car. We're going to go hang out and do something fun together. I might actually try to roller skate, but there will be no video proof of that whatsoever. So nonetheless, I'm going to wrap it up for this go around, show you what these little circles are, so don't forget to subscribe. I've been subliminally messaging it through the entire video for you, and share with your friends, and we'll catch you all next time.